but it is afternoon, so in reference in everybody's time, maybe we could just get started. It's kind of a
Yeah.
fun, casual Peplink University, so a little bit different um, topic here, and I'm really excited to announce our January and February series. But today we're going to flip the script on Travis. This is going to be a 10 things you probably don't know about Peplink is the webinar series, but it's actually going to be me asking Travis questions. So we're going to go through kind of 10 common questions and get Peplink themselves, the man himself, to answer these questions, and hopefully I'll open up for some additional questions throughout that people can draft up. If we don't answer your question directly, then we'll give some time for that. But I'm really excited to talk about this and end the year on kind of a really fun note, and then have, like I said, a more entertaining kind of 10 things you didn't know topic here. And so I hope you guys enjoy us for this webinar, and we'll get started. I think we can get started, right? Right, Travis?
Yeah, let's go.
First question, which I thought was kind of neat, is how did Peplink get started, and what its story in the networking industry?
Yeah, I love that. Like, you said you kind of like put it all on me at the beginning there, right? Like, let's talk to Mr. Peplink or something, but like it's just so much bigger than me, number one. Like, there's like nobody, I swear, that knows everything about Peplink except for maybe Alex or Eddie or somebody like that. But yeah, Peplink started out, I think it was 2005.
No, I got
And
my
so,
first one in 2006, my Balance
okay,
300,
yeah.
which I still have. And
And
so,
I got to go back and look. I found Peplink right around 2005 or six as well. I was a wireless engineer for a city in Minnesota, and I needed a high powered Wi-Fi device. And they were marketing this Surf product that had a high power Wi-Fi radio. And, that's how I found Peplink and got a few units, and the thing worked great. And they had this central management. This is 2005. Like, it was just kind of like, it was just different than anything else I'd touched so far. And so anyway, that's where my story with Peplink started. But yeah, they were a pretty new company then. And yeah, the products just worked. But yeah, really it was a Wi-Fi company on one side. And then they also had this link load balancer, this multi-WAN router they called the balance router. And so you could plug, a DSL and a cable connection into it, and, get two internet connections and failover and all this cool stuff. So it's fun because in a lot of ways it started exactly the way it is now, right? And providing that backup, that redundancy, those different connections options for people. And today it's 5G and new low Earth orbit satellites and all kinds of other cool technologies. But yeah, we're in a lot of ways doing the same things. It's just bigger, better, faster, and obviously just a lot more capabilities. But
right?
yeah, how did
They've really,
you jumped? Go ahead.
no, please go ahead.
I was just going to ask you. I mean, you jumped into the Peplink world really similar time frame to me, and so like, what was it that brought
So,
you in, or how did you?
so back in the 2005 era, and I've told this story in a couple of our PCA, like when I've done the public speaking events, but back in 2005 slash 2006, it was really 2006. I was struggling. SBS servers, Microsoft SBS servers were on the rage, and everybody was setting up their in-house email and SharePoint and file recovery repositories, and they were looking for redundant connectivity. And it was either like some big, load balancer system that was, $50,000, $60,000, or 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 some private network that did BGP. There was no affordable small business load balancing solution that, at least that I could find. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but at least that I could find. And so we found this Balance 300. And actually, my brother-in-law found it and brought it to me. And I was a Cisco engineer at the time. And I was like, "Oh, there's no way this is going to work. It's like $400 or $300 or some ridiculously low cost." And
It's
he's
got
like,
a
"Well,
GUI.
I
There's no
mean, it's
way
so
it
cheap.
works,
Let's,
right? Like,
yeah, there's no way it works." So we bought it and connected a cable modem and a DSL, two public IP addresses, AT&T and Cox, and then I set up a name server. So mail dot my company name at the time.com, and so it's
mhm.
mail.peterwest.com, and so we we set that up and then had it in NS record pointing to Cox into AT&T, And I was able to unplug my Cox internet and have mail.peterwest.com work. And
Yep.
it was amazing. I was like, this is nuts. Like, I don't have to have round robin DNS. I don't have to have mail one and mail two, which was the common thing, right? You'd have mail and then mail two,
Yeah.
or VPN and VPN
Yep.
two. And so it's just VPN dot and remote dot and mail dot. And I was like, this is insane. For $400, I have this inbound load balancing and then outbound load balancing. I then had redundancy on my outbound internet connectivity.
Yep.
Um, and it blew my mind. And then in 2008, we did a big project doing multiple petabytes of data, and I reached out to a guy named Tim Simdorm, and I was like, "Hey, I had this small router, but you have something bigger, like a bigger version of that that can do like gigabits of or gigabit per second." And then he goes, "We have this 380, and it's a gigabit router. You've got to invest in the company though if you want to be a partner. Like we need to, you need to show your investment." And I said, okay. So I bought this 5 of these routers and deployed 2 of them in HA for this project. And I've literally never gone back. Like that, it changed my world.
Yep.
And it's how I got into Peplink. And it's watching the technology grow, and you can kind of see this cool timeline, but watching the balance grow into the max with the cellular routers, and we started getting into healthcare and mobile connectivity and really solving complex problems. Then adding in control too, like we had the in control with the AP manager, but they didn't have a router manager. And so when they launched in control 2 and added the router management functionality, I was able to go from supporting my local companies and North Florida to the whole world. I could
Yep.
support anybody, anywhere, at any time, right from a web browser. And
Yeah.
then Speed Fusion enabled the ability to do MPLS replacement and real-time healthcare, and increase our capabilities even more. Then they added Speed Fusion Connect during the pandemic, which offered us to offer Speed Fusion to people without an infrastructure. And that's really what it is. It's people that don't have an infrastructure and can't use Speed Fusion. You can use Speed Fusion Connect for that, or Speed Fusion Relay. Um,
Hmm.
and when 4G came out, they told me, "Oh, you're never gonna. This is waste. You're just gonna have a 4G router. It's gonna replace your broadband." 5G came out, and they said, "Oh, you're not going to need bonding. You're not going to need multiple SIMs. 5G is going to end it. You're going to have 5G as your broadband. It's going to be fiber replacement right to everywhere." Well, we all know that's not the truth anymore. I knew that going into it because I watched this transition from 3G to 4G to 5G. But it's more important now. Our technology, our hardware, our software is more important now that we have 5G, because
Hmm.
more people see the value in connectivity everywhere, always.
Yep.
And so everybody, anytime someone needs connectivity everywhere and always, we're the answer. That's what Peplink does. Um, and then we just wanted to kick everybody in the shins a little bit and say, oh, by the way, InTouch out of band management built in with Speed Fusion Connect and in control, and it's free. So I mean, it's like just a like little dagger, and everybody that the competitor side that just says, not to mention bonding and SD-WAN and in control management. We now have this out of band management, and we can take your legacy appliances or hardware and manage it right inside in control, and that just, in my opinion. So
Yeah, and I think it's fun again because it kind of comes back to the beginning, right? Like when Peplink started, these were things that were all going on in the industry, right? These out-of-band management networks were all being built, and people are still doing these things the same way today. And like, again, here's Peplink. There's a better way to do those things, and so, yeah, it's we're just trying to solve problems and make it as easy as possible for people. But
right.
like you said, that you built your whole business on it, right? And I've built my whole career on it, and it's a transformative technology in so many ways because yeah, big or small, it's applicable and it's useful, and it solves problems, right? It makes connectivity better.
Man. Michael asked a question about our roadmap. We're going to talk about that later, Michael. Just
Yeah, we got a bunch of fun new stuff to talk about
yeah.
a little bit later in the show.
Is Peplink a better fit for large or small businesses?
So yeah, I guess I was kind of stealing my own thunder there. That's what I think is my favorite thing about this is with Peplink is like it's not one or the other, right? Like so many products, you look at it, it's like, oh, that's a great small business product, but terrible for enterprise, right? Or vice versa. There's really not. But Peplink is that thing that really works for everybody. And everybody may not use it the same way, but everybody wants Zoom and Teams to work better, right? Everybody wants their calls to be clearer, right? That much is pretty much a given for every business out there.
I know for
So yeah,
me, I
there's
mean, last week I was deploying seven 2500s for a very large multi-billion-dollar enterprise all over the country. I went from Gainesville, Florida to Houston um to Seattle, Washington, and a couple places in Texas and Tampa, Florida, and deployed 2500s for increased performance and speed for Speed Fusion. And so, I mean, that's a very large enterprise, but we also have I've got an RV installed tomorrow, and so we're going to be setting up a BR2 Pro 5G on an RV. And so for me, the answer to that question is that it's really, does Peplink solve your mission? And can it complete the mission? And so that's what you have to ask yourself: is what's my mission, and how can I accomplish that mission? But whether it's a small business, a Soho, a residential guy, or even a very, very large enterprises, which is sort of our specialty at West Networks, I mean, we're able to complete the mission, and that's really what, at least what makes me so proud of the product.
yeah, we're not exactly a household name, but there are, really, really big household names using Peplink all over the place. And it's just, there's just more and more. And it's fun too, because I mean, like we talked about the early days, I'm from kind of nowhere, Minnesota, North Dakota, right? And when I started this, there weren't local customers here, but now I can list 10, 15, 20 different customers in my local city that I didn't sell them Peplink, right? They got sold Peplink through other people because it's grown to be such a big thing now. And it's, again, in a lot of ways behind the scenes, but yeah, we're out there, big and small. If we go to the next one, I think there's some other cool things, because I think if we look down the road, maybe not just down the road, but today, really, like,
Someone asked me to screen.
oh,
Can you tell me about talk about Subaru a little bit? I mean, that's been a really fun project, and I know I helped with one of their events, but you help with a lot of their stuff, Travis.
they're so much fun because they're like probably one of the most challenging customers I've faced. Like, and that's fun to say because like over the years I've gotten really comfortable in trusting Peplink's technology to solve any connectivity challenge, right? And I think you can agree with me there. Like, you can go into any situation with a lot of confidence because you've got this Speed Fusion there to make it all better, right? And um they just kept bringing me into harder and harder places, further and further out, where there just, basically aren't signals from anything, right? And it's like, I can't bond nothing together, right? Nothing plus nothing still equals nothing. And so they just pushed the envelope even further than I guess I really realized needed to be. And so, when there's no signal, you need bigger antennas, you need satellites, right? You need more options. And so, Starlink developed right in parallel as our Subaru relationship developed. And so, yeah, over a couple of years, wow, we've developed a really robust system for them to be able to go out and broadcast from anywhere now, right? And so, yeah, it's just fun to find people that really want to push that envelope and, push our idea of even what the furthest is. Um, but yeah, at the end of the day, they're trying to get on YouTube and Instagram Live and, do the things that a lot of different people are doing, again, big and small.
It's super neat for me because they are a bigger company, and especially their race team and what they're doing, and the challenge of what they're trying to accomplish. But then they're using the same tools that we all use. They're using Instagram Live. They're
Yep.
using GoPro cameras and downloading content. But then they're like downloading really large files to map the engines that we weren't even allowed to look at because it's all their proprietary engine technologies. Um,
Yep.
but they are using a lot of the same technologies that we use every day, especially our broadcast customers. I mean, they're really a neat case study for evaluating how the broadcast capabilities are really prevalent and have grown in popularity with our product line, from the UBRs all the way to the MBX HD4 5G.
Yeah, I think the way they operate really captures a way in a lot of ways what the larger broadcast industry is turning into, right? It's the small person with consumer technology just, just bombing in there, right? Just kind of more of a guerrilla one-man show type of setup. But yeah, that's what this technology allows you to do is, take somebody small and do big things with it. So yeah, it's fun to work with them and see how they're again pushing it further.
More case studies on that, but I was just going to ask about Ericsson because that's actually it's in the slides, but I actually didn't know about that one, so I thought maybe you could talk about that one, and obviously I can talk about healthcare a little bit.
Yeah, and I think this plays in a lot of different directions well because Ericsson makes they're a vendor of private 5G infrastructure, and so they've been making private cellular infrastructure for a long time. And so we've been a member of their industry 4.0 program so that we certify our devices with their private cellular infrastructure. And so private 5G is kind of like it's kind of a silly way to say, but it's like super Wi-Fi, right? It's like Wi-Fi on steroids. Instead of it like blanketing your whole city, you're using it like a really strong, really reliable Wi-Fi network on your campus in your manufacturing environment, at your outdoor venue, right? And so you use that 5G technology, but in a smaller scale. But yeah, we're certified and we're partnered with them. And so, we're working on literally some of the world's biggest private 5G deployments hand in hand with, Peplink devices on these Ericsson private 5G networks and, private 5G networks of all kinds, but not just Ericsson. But yeah, as an example, they're, really pushing that envelope of what, again, big and small businesses can do with this technology on the private side.
Might not be able to answer this next question, but I'm out of curiosity.
Sure.
Ericsson obviously owns one of our competitors. How does that
Uh-huh.
play into this, like this case study? Because I saw this company name, and I go, "Wow, this is interesting." That they're inviting us to be part of it, and obviously there's some synergies there with their product line that they have. But
Mm-hmm.
what is, if you don't mind, what is this Industry 4.0 ecosystem, um, and how does that play for maybe some partners that are on the line that might be looking at that might be having a challenge when they're facing with our competitor that is part of this bigger company.
Yeah, so it's just exactly like a bigger cellular network, right? So like if you look at a Verizon network or an AT&T network, they have all these base stations out there and they have different companies that make those. Samsung makes some of them, Ericsson makes some of them. There's different companies and they use multiple companies, multiple brands or vendors to build their bigger networks. And so you've got, Samsung phones and Apple phones and Peplink routers and Cradlepoint routers, all these different routers on all these different base stations. And so it's similar in the private side. You've got a base station side, and then all these devices can connect to it, right? You're going to have tablets, you're going to have phones, you're going to have Peplink, so you might have Cradlepoints, right? All these different 5G devices can connect to those networks, just like, again, on the bigger public networks. And so, yeah, Ericsson does have they make the cellular infrastructure, but they have the Cradlepoint brand of client devices too. And so anybody can use those devices or a Peplink device on that Ericsson base station infrastructure. And that's, I think, part of what that Industry 4.0 program is about is letting customers, people who are building these networks, have confidence that they know they've got parts that are going to work together so that the base station and the clients have all gone through this common testing and know that they're going to be able to perform to a common level and achieve those goals. So yeah, that's, I think, in a nutshell what that is. And yeah, it's kind of fun because Peplink software can do things that Cradlepoint software can't. And so when you look at a private 5G environment, we're winning deals because we can extend the capabilities and solve networking issues that make, so like autonomous vehicles are really big in private 5G deployments. So like automobile manufacturing, they're using these large scale robots to, automate those assembly lines, move those vehicles around the assembly lines. And they need that private 5G, that super low latency, right? That's really what that technology delivers. But yeah, they need to solve weird little networking challenges that come with these advanced autonomous systems, and SpeedFusion sometimes is really the difference maker there. So I guess it's a big story to tell, but yeah, there's a lot with
Maybe
private
a
5G,
dedicated
private cellular.
hour on private 5G.
Yeah, I mean that industry is evolving so fast. I mean, we've talked about it
It
for a
is.
couple of years now, but 2023 was really the year that turned real. We really saw a lot of real deployments happen this year, and so that's really shaping what the industry is going to look like next year for sure.
I know from West Network side, we actually just started a really large CBRS private 5G network,
Uh-huh.
um, for a very large acreage, and so we're partnering with a couple partners, a couple Peplink partners to help with this too, and so kind of fun project. But yeah, the private 5G is definitely exciting.
Yeah.
And just for the instance of time, the and then another really neat use case here is when COVID launched, we were having issues. Our customers were having issues like how do I rapidly deploy COVID testing and vaccination efforts and get this down. And then there were chipset shortages and a whole bunch of issues that came around with logistics and supply chain. And it was neat because Peplink's unified ecosystem across all of our product line basically allowed us to grab anything off the shelf and connect it together and create a solution. So even if we couldn't get
Yep.
MBX HD4 5Gs, I could connect a BR2 and two BR1s. We could figure out how to make the solution work with
Yep.
because ultimately the BR1, especially now with this with 8.4 and SpeedFusion built in, all the way to the EPX, it's about throughput requirements and the number of connections for servicing. So if I can connect a bunch of different devices together, as long as my throughput is, and COVID testing was basically access my EMR and maybe get on the internet. It wasn't live teleconferencing and things like that, or live
Mhm.
broadcast needing you know dozens of megabits per second. It was just being able to process customer needs. Um,
Yep.
and so it was really neat time for us because we were challenged with rapidly deploying connectivity, unknown, and with a whole bunch of different products. Because we just had to piece together what we had. The idea with COVID and rapid response during, especially during the COVID, with the shortages of hardware, is that Peplink's unified ecosystem allowed us to combine a whole bunch of different router solutions to solve varying connectivity challenges. And I've had this conversation with a lot of Peplink partners over the last 2 years about how they were able to basically take Peplink hardware of varying types and solve those connectivity challenges. So I know we were working with Yale New Haven and a couple other hospitals on this, deploying rapid response and COVID testing and vaccination efforts. But partners all over the country were doing this, and we were able to do that very easily because we could basically, with our unified ecosystem, SpeedFusion being available on the BR1 all the way to the EPX, and having the same tool set, basically just performance differences, allowed us to really solve those challenges. And that's one of the reasons I like Peplink. It's not really about small and large business, but we can serve almost any business size because of the wide range of hardware that we have. The BR1 from a Soho all the way to the EPX for enterprise or high demand traffic, and now the 2500 EC even, with its incredible performance. Let me full
Yeah,
screen.
and
I
I think it can
apologize.
be hard. I think it can be tough for people to appreciate like the day-to-day side of that too, like how easy it is to shift from one model to another in terms of managing it, configuration side. Like
Yeah.
it can be really complicated on other vendor systems to like upgrade to a different model, right? Like their management system treats things very closed off, right? Like this config
Yeah.
is for this model and this model only, and you have to start over if you have a new model. And so yeah,
Oh, we
just
have that a little
moving
bit.
down
So
that ladder is really easy.
I really like this idea, this slide. When this one came across, I kind of got excited about it, and I do like the way you reworded it, Travis. But I mean, this is I've talked about this a little bit when we first started, but I was told that when 4G came out, I was no longer going to be relevant, and I was told when 5G came out, I was no longer going to be relevant. When Starlink was being teased, I was told over and over again that the Peplink's dead. That has
Yep.
obviously not been the case. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, obviously Peplink's dead. I love that because yeah, that's just like the tone that we get every time there's a new generation of wireless that comes out. And like you said, it happened with 4G too. And um it's not about how fast the latest G is, right? It's about how important is connectivity to your business. How much does your business rely on it, right? And so, yeah, I can have 4Gs or 5Gs, but it's just one connection, and that one connection is going to have a problem at some point, right? It's not the connection's fault, right? It's like anything that's important in our world, you need redundancy, you need backups, and if it's that important. And so, yeah, 4G doesn't change that, 5G doesn't change that, Starlink doesn't change that. What Starlink does change and what 5G does change is it gives us really affordable, high quality bandwidth in places that we've just never had it before.
Low latency,
Low
much lower
latency,
latency.
yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't take the need for Peplink away. It creates this awesome opportunity for Peplink to put those connections together and give you that awesome enterprise SLA grade bandwidth anywhere in the world now, right? That it makes Peplink just even more relevant instead of the opposite.
Exactly.
Again, you can have like SLA grade 100+ megabit bandwidth for like $200 a month anywhere in the world. Like, you spend $100 a month on Starlink, $100 a month on a fixed wireless 5G plan, and try and take me down, right? Like that's never been possible before. So yeah, like you said, it's exciting. Like
it is. And I think what's even more exciting on that is Peplink's adaptation of the technologies, like with 8.4 firmware and bringing in Starlink native support with stowing, rebooting, but also seeing the UI, the UIDs, and helping you manage your Starlinks with 8.4 firmware, having increased the capabilities of utilizing the technologies. And so it's been really exciting to see how, and not only are we not afraid of it, but it's actually, we're empowering those technologies in our ecosystem.
yeah,
So
because like try to deploy 100 Starlinks for your business today. Like how do you manage that, right? How does your IT team manage that? What tools do they use to integrate that with the other tools that you use, right? Like how do you control all that stuff? Like there's this whole new layer of things. And yeah, if you don't have that integration, you've got a whole nother thing you have to manage now. Where with Peplink, yeah, it's all built in. We can see all the information there. You don't have to have another layer to manage. It's just we're going to build as much of that integration as we can, whether that's Starlink or a different satellite system. So yeah, we want that. We want to be that connection manager again.
yeah.
There's going to be different connections you need over time to just do what you need to do with connectivity. So we just want to manage that and make sure that they're all working.
And one of the things I love about what you said at our very first tech summit was you're like, and it just increases the number of nines. You get all these new things, like you get a new nine. And it's like, oh, I'm 98%. Now I'm 99%. Now I'm 99.9%. These better connections and the ability for Peplink to integrate them just increases the level of nines that we have for reliability. And that's ultimately what we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah. Yep. Because, a single 5G connection is not the same as a broadcast truck, right? They have different price points. They are completely different technologies, and you're going to get different reliability from them, right? And so, yeah, if you want to take these fast modern connections, you just need to add more of them if you want that kind of broadcast medical grade reliability. But yeah, with Peplink, you can get both.
Another neat question that we have is, do you need to sign up for Peplink devices in the cloud before kicking them into gear or having them work? And I think there's actually two answers for this. So I'm kind of curious what your answer is, and then and then we can add on to it, I think. But I'm curious how you answer this or how you adopt this when you have customers asking that.
So I think, yeah, there's a couple layers or a couple conversations wrapped up in this. And so, there's some people, they see the word cloud and that freaks them out because they've got a very security focused mentality, right? And so our device is number one, every aspect of our ecosystem can run in a public network or a private network. So you can run our management system, all these different components, you can run those in a private zero internet network. So you can take the cloud out of the mix, right? So no, you don't have to sign them up in the cloud to use them. You can use them privately in a bunch of different ways. But they all come with that cloud management. So, you know, if you want cloud management, yeah, you can definitely sign up for it. And that's a good, you know, that's a good thing to do, to just register it in your name anyways, so that it can't be registered by somebody else. But yeah, again, right away, you've got that option with Peplink that basically no other router manufacturer in the cellular space has. Of, you can run it on a private network, you can put the management system on a private network, you can put all of the VPN pieces in a private network, and none of it ever has to talk to the internet for licensing or anything.
So another thing that I wanted to add was, I've had a couple customers ask about, Prime Care versus,
Mm-hmm.
because it's subscription based. And Peplink's made some changes to that with 8.4, because like now with 8.4, you have Speed Fusion after Prime Care expires. But you
Yep.
do need to connect it to InControl first. And so InControl, our cloud capabilities, gives you the database driven dynamic content. So it's going to give you your SaaS applications, your content filtering updates. It's going to give you centralized management, InTouch, things that require that cloud connectivity for where you're downloading new content. But the device itself, especially if it's a non-prime care device, functions forever. Especially on a point-to-point infrastructure, like connecting a whole bunch of balanced 2500s to each other, those will work
Mm-hmm.
forever, regardless of, and you get free firmware forever too, or until it's no longer relevant. Um, and so you get free firmware until the device is end of life. You get perpetual licensing on our enterprise products, and then Prime Care. You do want to connect it to InControl to get that license, the Prime Care registration, and then some of those features, like the database features, do expire, like your Fusion Hub license and a few things like that. But the router itself will work perpetually, and that's important differentiation there. And somebody asked if you can get these slides. They're published to anybody that registered, so you'll get the slides, and the recording will be published on YouTube. Ed, you're asking some really good questions. Not necessarily the focus of this conversation about, but I'd be more than happy to set up a private time, or we can talk about it off topic. But you're asking really good questions, Ed.
But yeah, Peter, I think that subscript, that's the first question everybody asks. And I think it's the first question everybody should ask is, what happens when your subscription expires, right? A lot of these routers have subscriptions on them, and different things happen when they expire on different vendors. And so on Peplink, when Prime Care expires, a lot of the things still work, right? You can still log into the router.
Just the updates.
Almost all of it. Yeah. Almost all of the still work. And so you can still log into it. You can still change settings. A lot of vendors will gray out the entire user interface, so you can't change anything, even locally, right? Like that, it's not your router with other vendors. With Peplink, it's your router. And the only things that will stop working are things that are tied to services that we maintain in the cloud. And so it's a much different experience with Peplink when your subscription expires. All right.
Michael, this slide's just for you. He asked what the roadmap was. Peplink, I think what's really neat about Peplink is we're always evolving, right? We're adapting to new wireless technologies. We're adapting to new internet technologies. We're solving customer challenges, which makes new features. And I think there's a lot coming up in the future here, just even in the immediate future, products that maybe you've already heard about or that are launching here very soon. And so Travis, I'll leave it to you to kind of run through it, but I'm pretty excited to see the growth of Peplink and where we're headed.
Yeah, let's dive in. There's a bunch of fun stuff to talk about here. This is the big one, right? So the BR1 Mini 5G. This is, and I don't know why we don't have $499 just massive. I know, it's like... But this is a $499 5G router with Peplink quality. So this is the BR1 Mini without Wi-Fi. So it's BR1 Mini Core 5G, I guess you could call it. But yeah, this is the latest and greatest X62 Qualcomm chipset. And so this is just a super affordable 5G device for those IoT deployments. Not everybody needs the 5G speed, but they want that life cycle, that longevity, that investment protection, right? They don't want to have to upgrade when 6G comes out, right? They want to be able to ride that wave, you know. So if they buy a 4G device, their concern is pretty soon, in a couple of years, that device may be maybe end of life cycle. So yeah, the BR1 Mini 5G, $499.
Yeah.
That's come.
And
I think we're taking pre-orders right now.
The growing word is adapter, right? I mean, that's a very popular word now. It's a 5G adapter. So
yeah,
you can't really see it, but I'm doing some testing of some other products, and I've got my 5G route mini as my internet source for my competitor routers that I'm evaluating. And so playing around, but so it's an adapter. You just plug this in, enable pass-through mode if you want, and voila, you have 5G internet on basically any device, and it's incredibly affordable.
So this pairs great with those fixed wireless plans. You know, you've got like 100 megabit per second fixed wireless plan. Like you said, this is the fixed wireless adapter for you. It's IP pass-through, plug it into your existing router. All right, yes, the Balance One. This is our newest generation of an entry-level device, and so this kind of takes that that spirit of the Surf Soho that we had, or the Balance 20 over the years. This is just that, again, that entry-level device. Like, everybody needs a stable router, right? Like, everybody wants a router that's just stable, whether they have one internet connection or 10. Just give me a good router, please. And so that's what the Balance One does. Of course, we've got the Speed Fusion capabilities in there. So you've got built-in, you've got an option with built-in 5G. But a lot of people just have Starlink, or they have a fixed wireless modem from their 5G provider. And so this is that one single great router that you can plug into those connections that come with their own routers or modems as well. So coming soon on that one.
I kind of held it up, but I have the very first B1 router. I think it was someone made this, and it actually works in Europe right now. But the B1 was originally like this. They've now unified the 20 and the Soho and a couple of the routers together. So, but yeah, it's kind of exciting. And then we have this B1, which is more like the 20, right? And then you have the B1 5G, which adds that 5G connectivity to it. And so incredibly cost-effective connectivity for your Soho applications.
That's that connection manager device, right? You're going to have a couple different connections. They might have their own modems or routers, but yeah, this B1 is that connection manager for you to put them all together.
Do you see the questions, Travis? Look at the one from Steve and see if I don't know if we're allowed to talk about that or not. I'm gonna look at the other ones. James, yeah, if you there's a question from Steve about IC2. It's
let's just keep going. We got a lot of new stuff to keep showing on the slides. I'd like to just get through those at least.
Okay, we'll go through it. Next.
Yeah, so the next one is our slim antenna. This is it's just a nice flat panel antenna. It's an omni antenna, so it looks kind of like a directional, but it's actually outdoor rated. It's IP55. I wouldn't put this on like a moving vehicle necessarily, but under the eaves of a house or something like that. Definitely a great device. But yeah, it's just a better form factor for some people. Those mobility antennas with the pass-through design work great if you're mounting it on a vehicle, but if you need it near a window or a wall, this flat form factor is a much more convenient for that type of setup. But again, this is one of our in-house design antennas, so the performance, the range is going to be just absolutely excellent.
I actually took one of these and mounted it to my Tim won't let me drill holes in our nicer cars, so we have a Mercedes SUV, and I was going to drill a hole and install an 82G on it. And he goes, "You're not drilling a hole in the roof of our Mercedes SUV." And I was like, "Well, how do I get antennas?" And then Peplink, it was really funny because about a week later, I get an email from the Peplink wireless engineer, and he goes, "Hey, can I send you this thing?" And he sends us this slim adapter, and I stuck it right in the window of the SUV, and it works really well for not penetrating the roof, no holes in the vehicle, and to be able to just have that connectivity. I was very impressed with the connectivity and capabilities of it.
Yeah, yeah, putting it on the dash, putting it in a rear window, those, yeah, way better than the stock antennas, but no holes, like you said. It came out too late to save my vehicle's roof, but not for others.
Well, I still like drilling holes in the roofs, but Tim wouldn't let me do that one. So I think this is an awesome router. I am.
Yeah, this thing, I mean, it's shown here in a maritime context, but this thing is just so much bigger than any one use case. And it is big, right? Like this is a bucket, right? I call this the Home Depot bucket.
Yeah.
It's like a 5-gallon pail for sure. But yeah, like, you know, we talked about Subaru, right? Like when there's no signal to bond, you need bigger antennas, right? Like that's kind of the only option then. And so this is that, right? You've got a router inside, but you've got two 5G connections, and we've integrated in our experience with the maritime antennas. And so it's all in one. It's a self-contained unit that you've got just super high gain, omnidirectional dual 5G coverage. And it works really, really well. I got to go out with a public safety agency in Florida. We went out off the shore of Key West. We took this in a boat, and we had it mounted just in the worst possible spot. It was like right above the outboard motors, just barely above the deck of the boat, just not ideal for long range, right? But we still got, like, at 20 miles, we were getting like 80 megabits per second at 20 miles offshore. And
That's
I think we got up to 20, yeah, I think we got up to like 22 miles before it cut out. So that last like mile or two, it trailed off quite a bit. But yeah, we were getting almost 100 megabits at 20 miles out. And if we would have had it up, you know, I think we would have gotten way more range.
We've installed it pretty high, and it goes pretty far. We have a customer that installed one up high, and they were able to go very far offshore.
Uh-huh.
So it was pretty neat. And we've actually installed these now. I don't know if Brian's on this call, but we've actually installed these on the tops of like big manufacturing distribution facilities to act as a backup fiber internet connection.
Yes.
So I mean, it's like, because the antenna is the length, and it gives you that higher performance. So even if you're not off, you know, hundreds of miles or dozens of miles offshore, and you're just in a rural area, the big antennas mean you have more chance of receiving and sending that signal, or hearing the signal, I should say, on a radio. And so it gives you better opportunity for connectivity, and it lowers the latency, increases the throughput. I mean, it's an incredible router. Absolutely incredible.
Yeah, and it's, you know, it's omnidirectional, so you don't have to have an engineer sit there and aim it. And you know, it's PoE, right? It's a single Cat5 cable to install it, right?
Yeah. And
Yeah,
there's no
fixed
loss. Yeah.
locations. I think broadcast, mobile medical, right? Mobile public safety, there's tons of use cases for this thing. And yeah, like you said, fiber failover, you know, if you've got two fixed wireless 5G plans on this thing, put it on every building you've got, and now you've got this super redundant connectivity option.
And if anybody wants to install these on every building they've got, just give me a call, right?
And put a Starlink with it too, right? You've got two 5G.
Plug a Starlink on the PoE out, you know.
I wish our PoE out had enough juice to run a Starlink, but
we can figure it out.
you can still plug a dish in there for sure.
There you go.
All right, what else do we got? I think
Let's
we're close.
The POTS adapter. Somebody asked a question about this, so it's a perfect opportunity.
Yeah, this is a cool one. I mean, it seems mundane, right? We're talking about analog telephone lines, but hey, they're everywhere in our world today still, and they're getting shut off left and right. The FCC does not require them to be run by the telephone companies anymore, and so they're migrating them rapidly over to voice over LTE. And so that's what this device does. It just connects your analog telephone lines to a voice over LTE connection from your carrier, like a T-Mobile, Verizon, AT&T. You're able to just connect a regular old analog phone line to one of those carrier phone plans. So like fax machines, alarm panels,
elevators.
Yeah, elevators. Yeah, all kinds of different devices out there that still use these.
But so if you join this call a few minutes after 12, but at 12 o'clock, we actually signed our new building, and I had my broker. I was like, hey, I got a webinar at noon, so they were all sitting here in my office, and but the POTS adapter, we have to have a phone line for our elevator in the new building, and so the POTS adapter is, we're going to use that for our fire and our alarm, and so it's kind of neat to have that, plug a T-Mobile voice line in there, and boom, we have voice connectivity and dial tone for those legacy systems. So pretty excited to be able to deploy that in a real use case environment. What is because we had a question about it, what is the availability of the POTS adapter? Like, what's the time frame for that one?
I think I expect it'll ship in Q1. We're very, very close. I know we're just working through some carrier certifications and things like that. So I think it's very close. We've tested it on everybody out there, and I know there's some nice options they're working on too, like a battery backup cable. So, those are important details for, more remote types of deployments. Having the battery backup option there is critical really for some people. But yeah, there just aren't many adapters out there that are ruggedized, right? There's a lot of USB driven stuff, and that's just not appropriate for
thing.
Yeah, it's just not appropriate for an alarm panel or, these emergency call boxes, right? Like, yeah. So this is metal ruggedized, extended temperature.
They should call it the POTS adapter rugged, because it's that metal ruggedized. That we can send over to Cassie, but Cassie.
I think there's an industry analyst that made a report covering all the vendors out there, but there's a comment I think that was made about Peplink's SD-WAN not having real-time cellular health information, and so that was just a very incorrect statement, frankly. We are the epitome of real-time cellular health and packet routing details and all of those things, but yeah, for any folks maybe confused about that, we make decisions real time and we report on them real time, and so that's what this video was. But yeah, I don't think we need to.
Hold on 1 second. I've paused my screen. I'm gonna log into my Peplink University, and I'll just actually show that real fast, because it is important. There's in control, and we have webinars, videos about in control. But it is interesting that even after years of in control and our cellular features and capabilities, that even comes up as a question about our real-time analysis. And so give me 1 second. I'm just gonna
I think the other thing is it's included for free. There's no extra license required, unlike some vendors where you have to pay for an additional tier of license to get those cellular reports. So yeah, it's there, and it doesn't cost extra with Peplink either. So
okay, so I'm gonna reshare. Can you see my in control here? My Peplink University. Okay, so here's
I use this constantly. Like, this is definitely
it's an amazing tool. I've used it 5 years ago as a sales tool for troubleshooting connectivity, and so I've got my Renegade, and you can see the GPS kind of tracking there. But if I go to reports and then WAN quality reports, I can pull up my cellular and actually look at the quality in real time over time. So I got the real time streaming to me live, and then I've got his history here, and then I get a GPS map of it. So let me pull to the last time it actually moved. I think it's a couple of days ago. Let me see here. Because it's really cool if you can catch it moving. Sorry, I drive all the time, so I have to catch when last time I drove it. There we go. Okay, and then if I go there you go. And so you can see this map of my travels, and I can see the WAN quality of that cellular one, that AT&T, T-Mobile, or Verizon cellular connection. So you can see green, and then you get your quality, your signal strength, your quality, and your latency. And so you've got this map of quality, and then you have this graph of quality, and it's showing you that in real time. And I can pull up any cellular connection that I have that's active and watch this connection. I've even used this for Starlink on the Ethernet line. I can watch that. It'll be gray because there's no quality on Starlink, but I can watch the connections up and down. And you can see this particular one was not very good. But that's the whole point behind it is I can not only see in real time my quality, I can also see historically. So if someone calls me and says, hey, yesterday at 3 o'clock, I was having a problem, I can actually pull up yesterday at 3 o'clock and see where they were and what the quality of all of their internet connections are at that time. And then I can go in and go to reports, bandwidth and usage reports. And I can see real-time bandwidth and usage per SEM, which is off right now, so it's not going to be available, per minute, hourly, daily, and monthly. So I can put my daily, go to gigabytes, and actually see my gigabytes transfer. And you can see the 30th and the first when I was traveling, there was my data utilization right there. And so as I was traveling, and then it's obviously not traveling, so it's not using much data right there. And so that's the whole idea is I can see, and if it's on right now, I can go to real time and actually see that on a per WAN basis. And so I can click on this, and I can click on any internet connection I want and see that throughput on a per WAN basis. And so incredible real-time capabilities, not only real-time performance, but you also have Wi-Fi reports, device reports. You can see top consumers. You can get real-time event log and firewall logs that are dumped to the InControl, so you don't have to log into the router or log into your SNMP or your syslog server, whatever it might be. You can pull right from InControl. And so there's a lot of real-time reporting capabilities that happen. I had a customer call me a couple days ago and said, hey, we had a router down. And I just logged in, pulled up the reports, went to event log, said, show me system. Sure enough, I saw it rebooted. So I enabled LAN and WAN and saw they had a whole bunch of MAC conflicts. Oh yeah, it looks like you have a loop. Fix the loop, problem went away. We saw it in the event logs and the router stabilized. And so using the event logs, they were able to solve that problem in just a few seconds, really. And I was working right from my phone. I just literally just logged into InControl my phone and pulled that information up. And so the reporting capabilities of Peplink and InControl 2 are absolutely amazing.
You realize how real time it is when you're sitting there working on a vehicle and you're watching the vehicle move down the road as you're
driving down the road.
I mean, I've even done it on airplanes. Like I'm working on an airplane and I'm watching it like skip across the country, and it's just like, this is so bizarre, but yeah, it's that real time. It really is that real time. Peter, I think we've pretty much wrapped the content and the hour here. Next gen firewall.
Yeah, let's answer this one real fast. We got distracted. I did not think this would take a full hour, and we certainly did. One of the questions we have is, does Peplink have a next gen firewall capabilities? And we've had different answers with that, but we do have an entire webinar that we recorded on November 14th about next firewalls and network security. And those slides and recordings are on Peplink University. You can go to Peplink's YouTube channel. But for most of the point, Peplink has a really good firewall. We don't have next gen capabilities, but we do have content blocking DPI capabilities and a firewall. And so it's important to understand that we do have security. It's some of those real-time adaptive response. And I don't like to reinvent anything that's already good. There are a lot of good security vendors out there, and we can work with those security vendors. So if you have a cloud-based security appliance, we do URL reporting, session reporting. We support NetFlow, and we have an API, and so you can integrate security solutions into our firewall capabilities, or just understand that our firewall has content blocking, DPI, and application blocking, internal incoming, outgoing, internal firewall policies. Just not the next gen capabilities that you can add with a third party partner. I think that's probably the best quick way to answer that in the essence of time, right?
There's tons of firewall capabilities built in.
There are. Watch the webinar. It's a whole hour on this topic alone.
Yep.
And then go ahead.
I was just gonna say, and it still works after the license expires.
And it works forever. And the last topic was, why are we creating synergy mode in InTouch? And so, Travis, I'll pass that on to you.
Yeah, I think, I mean, you talked about synergy mode before synergy mode, right? Just plugging different products in together to make something work. And, now we're just making it make sense, right? So that you don't have to be Peter West to do that. It just all looks like it's one product. And so, synergy mode is just because it's really powerful when you start combining some of these Peplink products together. And so we just want it to be easy to do that now. And so, yeah, that's synergy mode just makes it awesome so you can combine different products together and just bolt in more connectivity when you need it. InTouch, we talked about that at the beginning, kind of like that is the new way to do out of band management. You need to manage things remotely, phones, cameras, printers, like all kinds of different things. So why not give your technicians a web-based interface that they can log into that you don't have to maintain? It's just it's a tool that's built into the device. So you can basically change remote support workflows without having to spend any extra money if you've got a Peplink. And you don't have to build a separate network.
We had a maritime customer with that bought an SDX to manage Starlink and 5G, but then they had another firewall vendor on the LAN of the SDX, and we used InTouch to give the programmer of the firewall access to the firewall over Starlink.
Okay,
so
nice.
they logged into InControl InTouch to remote control and program their firewall because it was on the LAN of the Peplink. It was a really neat use case for InTouch, and then the guy was even looking at the InControl and InTouch and was pretty impressed with that integration and capability.
Yeah, let's say you run an email server that runs on a Windows machine, right? Like just pretend, and you need to get a technician from that software company in there. Well, you can give him an InControl account that only has access to that Windows server, and they can pull up remote desktop to that machine. So it makes InControl useful for everything outside of Peplink too. And it's a great foundation for maintaining that kind of secure access to people. But yeah, I think we've kind of covered everything. So
and to learn more about these, watch the 8.4 video. So we have an 8.4 video talk about synergy mode and InTouch, and then we have an 8.3 video where we introduce synergy mode and really go into details on it. But to learn more about that, and we are out of time, and so in the essence of everybody's time, I would thank everybody for joining us on this call. If you have questions that weren't answered, Peter at westnetworks.com, Travis at peplink.com. If we aren't the right contact for you, we'll definitely get you in with the right contact, whether it's another partner or regional location or something like that. So you can reach out to either one of us, and we'll make sure you get your question answered and get redirected to the proper partner.
Awesome. Well, as always, thank you, Peter. Thank you, everyone. And yeah, we've got some cool stuff planned for next year.
We're excited. It's gonna be fun.
So stay tuned.
Oh, hold on. Can we talk about January?
Yeah, if you want to, go for it, man.
So our idea for January and February conferences is to do the PCA training content. Travis was not able to make it down to the summit last in November. We announced the PCA and went through the PCA training. So we're going to do two special sessions, 2 in January and 2 in February. They're going to be long. We will record them, but if you join them, you can ask questions, provide feedback, and things like that. And so we're going to be announcing 2 January sessions and 2 February sessions. And we're going to go through the entire Peplink Certified Associate program, and then offer you the ability to then take those tests. And so if you're interested in your PCA, you're interested in having hands-on demonstrations and kind of a walkthrough of the training, please join us in January and February for that. And we'll be announcing those registrations here soon. If you joined us at the summit, you already went through that. You can have a refresher if you'd like to, but then we'll record that content and it will go live on or not live, but it'll be posted to YouTube under the Peplink University. And so you'll be able to then watch that content as well. But it'll be about 15 hours of content. It's going to be some pretty intense content going over the UIs, InControl, all the hardware, what's happening in 2024, Starlink, 5G, etc. And so we invite you to join us for this special 4-part series, January and February, for PCA training.
Yeah, start your new year out right and dig
Right.
in on all the latest topics.
And once again, if we didn't get to you, please send us an email. We would love to answer those questions. And so thank you very much, everybody.
All right, folks, take care. Goodbye.
Bye.